G'day, this is our horse paddock, and as a horse paddock it's not a very good horse paddock, and the reason for that is because it is on sand. We're on 6 foot of sand here, and it's yeah, well, it's sand all right. It's easy to dig holes in, but as far as a horse paddock, not very good. It gets eroded very quickly. This area was many thousands of years ago a inland sea, and this area, or this sand, was the remnants of a sand dune. What's the relevance to this video? Well, it's a bit tenuous, I know, but this video is about the Inertia Sander. Not the greatest of subjects, but I hope you find it of some worth.
G'day, the topic of today's review is this style of sander. Now, they are called by some the rotary sander. I've heard them called inertia sanders. There may be other names for them. I'm not exactly sure of the official name. I am going to, for the sake of this video, call it an inertia sander. I've got 3 different styles here, made by 3 different companies, and I'm going to look at this one first. Now, this was made by Vic Wood many years ago. They are now made and sold by U-Butte Polishers. I mentioned this one for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I'm pretty sure Vic Wood many years ago was the first one to make these and market them and sell them. I still remember distinctly the first day he showed me one of these inertia sanders, and I couldn't believe how effectively they actually sanded. I was wondering how on earth, if this sanding pad is driven by this rotation of the wood itself, how it could create enough friction for it to sand. But it does, and it does it extremely effectively, and I'll show you that a bit later on. So that's the important thing about this sander. It's quite an historic sander because I'm pretty sure, as I said, Vic Wood was the first to make and market them. Now, they're made by a lot of companies now. One of them is Tim Skilton. He makes the Skilton sander. That's it there. One of the differences with the Skilton sander you'll notice is that the angle of the handle is slightly different compared to the axis that this sanding pad is on itself. So this is angled upwards a little bit, and that makes it comfortable getting into bowls so that your knuckles aren't scraping on the rim of a bowl, for instance. The other good thing about the Skilton sander is there's interchangeable heads, so I can take that 3-inch head out and put a 2-inch head in there, depending on the project that I've got. I think the Rolls Royce of the sanders is this Vermec sander. Very, very good quality sander, and because it is good quality, well, it attracts an appropriate price. Now, that's a worthwhile point to raise. Yes, you do get value for money. You do get what you pay for when you buy a sander, and there are things to look at. There are things that will go wrong with your sanders. This one here I have just not been able to kill. The Vermec sander has just been the best one that I've used. What are some of those things that can go wrong? Well, let's have a look at the hook and loop. There are different qualities of hook and loop. This one's a very good quality one, so when you put your sandpaper on there, it actually stays on there. It sticks on there for good. The glue between the hook and loop and the pad is important because there is quite a bit of heat generated when we are sanding. If the glue's no good, then this hook and loop will peel off when you come to take your sandpaper off. You'll take your sandpaper off and you'll find that the hook and loop comes with it. The quality of rubber is also important. Is that going to deform after a while, or is it going to maintain its shape? The quality of the shaft, the quality of the bearings, etc. All of those things are very, very important, and if any of those are poor quality, any of those materials are compromised, then you will have problems with these inertia sanders. This one has got another feature of being able to undo that bolt there and change the angle of the handle, and that's a really good feature, although I must say that I've put it on that angle, and that's the angle that I tend to maintain it or keep it at. So this one, as with the Skilton sander, I can change the head to a smaller head if need be. Fantastic sanders, these Vermec ones. I like them a lot. Now, these sanders are suitable for both spindle turning and for bowls. I use my inertia sander for doing the sanding on the grinders that I do and the bowls that I do. Here is a grinder. The difficulty with spindles, I suppose, is if you've got lots of beads and coves, and these sanders can't really cope with that, and you need to do some hand sanding with that. We're going to start some sanding of this, and I've got this grinder here that I've deliberately left a lot of tool marks on there. I've got a piece of 180 grit, it's not even brand new 180 grit, and I'm going to sand this pepper grinder just to show you how rapidly this takes off material and sands this up. The other thing you'll notice about the Inertia Sander is that the random scratch pattern that it creates, and it almost becomes, especially from 180 grit upwards, those marks become quite hard to see. As opposed to the scratch marks made by hand sanding, which both on bowls and spindles can be a series of concentric marks. When I do spindle turning and I sand by hand, I end up by sanding with the grain. That is not the case with these Inertia Sanders. Now let's turn this lathe on, get this wood spinning, and we'll show how this sands. Now I often talk about slowing your wood down or slowing the peripheral speed down when we come to sand, especially by hand. With these Inertia Sanders, the opposite is the case. Because it is the wood that is spinning the pad, then you can actually spin the wood quite fast. In fact, I'm going at the moment 2,500 RPM at the moment. Because, as I said, this pad is spinning with the wood, there's a lot less friction that is created, and so the wood doesn't heat up as much. Just keep an eye on some of these lines and watch how quickly they get sanded out. Now, as I said, this is 180 grit, and it's even worn 180 grit. It's not a brand new sheet or disc with 180 grit, and that is sanding those marks out very, very rapidly. You'll just see all of this dust coming off. I'm not having to press really hard into there. And let's have a look at that. Now, what was that? 30 seconds less of sanding, and that's taken all of those marks out of that piece of wood. Absolutely brilliant, these things. Let's have a look at this. I can get into that cove. I'm going to sand up the hill here. Now when I get to this edge here, I don't want to roll that edge over, so what I'm doing is I'm pulling back on the handle of it, or twisting the handle, so that I'm twisting the sandpaper away from this shoulder so I don't round that over. I can come back the other way to sand the cove in the other direction. Like so. Now, the way that I'm driving this Inertia Sander is by contacting either left or the right hand part of the disc, not top or bottom. So left or right. In this case it's the left hand side of the disc or the right hand side of the disc. If you contact the top or bottom, you'll notice that disc just does not sand or spin as quickly, and doesn't spin at all in some spots. So to get it spinning left or right, it can be left or right. You don't have to push really hard. Let the sandpaper and the wood spinning do the work for you. And you will see, I can't see any scratch marks whatsoever, and that is 180 grit. Now the Inertia Sanders, as I said before, are good for spindles as well as bowls, so now I'll get a bowl onto my lathe and show you how we sand the bowl. Now I've got a bowl on my lathe. This is the outside of the bowl obviously, and Inertia Sanders are fantastic for sanding in this situation. Bit of torn grain over here. We'll see how this goes. This 80 grit goes on here. Now remember, before, as with the spindles, we tend to go quickly. We tend to try and speed things up when we are using these Inertia Sanders. So the lathe is not slowed down, it is actually sped up. And you can just see how much dust is being created. Now in this case I'm using the left hand side of the disc, and because the peripheral speed is smaller here than it is out here, the pad on the sander will slow down as we go in. But you might be able to hear that it's going fast there, and it slows down a little bit in here. I can use the right hand side and come out the other way if I like. But remember, as soon as I do that, that is, use the middle or the bottom or the top, not much happens. So you've got to use one side or the other. So that's the outside of a bowl. We're going to get this bowl on and we'll do the inside of this bowl. Okay, I've got the Skilton sander on the inside of this bowl. We'll see how we go. Now, they're very easy to use on the rims here. Once again, we're just driving the pad off the left-hand side. They're very good on these rims in here. We get right into the corner and on that rim section there. I probably can't get into this area here very well, but I can get on or into the inside of this bowl. Now, when I going into the middle, if I go into the middle, there's not much peripheral speed there, so there's not much of the timber turning to turn the sanding pad. So what I do is I drive from the left hand side but touch the right hand side. So I drive off the wood out here or about there but touch the other side of the pad to get it into the middle. And this is how I do it. So there it is there, and then so I'm driving from the left and touching in the right. Now I'll show you how effectively that works by actually putting a pencil mark there. And here's the pencil marks all the way up in there. So drive from the left and you can see that I'm contacting the right hand side of the pad and sanding that section very efficiently. So that's using the Inertia Sander for the inside of the bowls and around on the rim. Fantastic way to sand. Once again, no concentric marks.
Well, that looks all right. I hope you got something out of that video. Before I get going, a big thank you to Sean Finney from the US for your generous support of U-Turn. Much appreciated. It's people like you, Sean, who are helping me, encouraging me to keep going with my videos. As are all of you who have shopped at uturn.tv and bought some stuff off me. Thank you very much. Keep turning safely. I'll see you another time.